It's 10 o'clock Mountain Time. That means it's time for Tom and Shane, Business and Politics. And today we want to talk about the U.S. Air Force has won a badass plane, Shane. We got a
Yeah.
badass plane we're going to talk about today. Before we get to that, though, we need to remind you we're here every Tuesday, every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Ring the notification bell. You'll always be notified when we're on, no matter what time zone you're in. Like us, leave a comment. Let us know what you'd like for us to talk about. We've got quite a plane to talk about today, Shane. The F-15EX.
Yeah, it's a remarkable piece of equipment, and it's not cheap. The original cost when
Mhm.
McDonnell Douglas started building it was around 18 million. So it's about what 189 million in today's
Mhm.
dollars. A
Yeah.
plane. But it's great
Mhm.
to have this conversation, and the reason is that I, you always hear my reference about warmongers, and
Mhm.
this thing about the title of this article that we were looking at is the F-15EX sticks it to China and means X's militarism now being matched with new U.S. weaponry. Well, that's just a misrepresentation of the truth, and
Mhm.
especially on a global basis. So we'll get into the numbers in a minute, but yeah, it's a
Mhm.
pretty remarkable plane. There's
Mhm.
nine variations of the F-15.
Yeah. I know. Well, it started back in the late '60s.
Yeah,
I'm not even. We may have had some in Vietnam. I know we had some kind of jets flying around dropping napalm, but this one, we've got the F-35 now too, and this is capable of 20,000 hours of flight, I guess, in its lifetime, where the F-35 is only 10,000 hours. It operates at half the cost of maintenance for those hours, and so it's a pretty nice, it's a pretty nice piece of hardware. And the other nice thing, it can carry up to 12 air to air missiles. No other plane can handle that much.
that weight. Yeah,
And yeah, the weight, and it also has the aerodynamic or the hypersonic one, and that flies at 3,800 miles an hour, 5 times the speed of sound. Can probably be shot down, I would think, but it would. You got to be right on the money to do it, I guess. Yeah, it's it's quite a piece of hardware. It flies with fly-by-wire controls. That means that when the pilot gives a command with the stick or the controls, computers take over and make sure that the pilot doesn't overfly the plane. It makes sure that the rudders and the ailerons and the flaps and everything are correct if you're going to bank or dive or fly up or whatever. So it's quite a piece of equipment. All things considered, it's pretty remarkable.
it is, and they've done the best they can with the suits the pilots wear and the air pressure of the cabin they
Hmm.
have, which is a huge cost because it's flown by humans.
Yeah.
A third of the cost of these fighters is to provide the cabin for a person or a pilot. And the other issue too is it limits the capability of the plane because
Hmm.
human is restricted because of the G forces that they can take.
Yeah.
And this plane can handle G forces in double digits, but
Hmm.
a human at nine Gs maybe can sustain that for a few seconds or a few
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
more than a minute because it's just
Hmm.
they'll pass out. I mean, even with an oxygen mask and everything else.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about this computer system. As I said, it won't allow it prevents the pilot from overflying the plane to do things that are going to endanger the pilot. If the G's, the computers will control how many G's the turn is.
That's right.
Even if the pilot wants more, the computer's going to say, "No,
Yeah.
thanks, that ain't going to happen."
And one of the advanced technologies on these jets now is infrared search and track, but by
Hmm.
computer, as you say.
Yeah.
But this is where the age of the golden age of pilots is coming to an end, because the
Hmm.
more artificial intelligence they put into these planes with software and
Yeah.
technology, the less
Hmm.
likelihood they'll have of pilots, which will
Hmm.
reduce a third of the cost. Not and of course it becomes
Hmm.
a flying drone. But
Yeah.
I just want to give some numbers here, because I think it's important that people understand that the difference in commercial and military, and then
Hmm.
China in particular, in the United States. So, globally, there's over 35,000 commercial airplane fleet that's been built, by the different manufacturers. But you compare that to fighter jets on the global basis in the first world, not including China or Russia, 53,000. There's
Hmm.
53,000 of these. And so
Yeah.
you look at these numbers and you go, what? There's what? How? Wow. Well, yeah, and it's overwhelming. I mean, the
Hmm.
U.S.'s current inventory is over 5,200, so they're close to 10% of the global fleet. But the Americans have also built them all. There's some
Yeah.
been built,
Hmm.
in Europe by England and France and Germany, but principally the United States is the you know the builder. But
Hmm.
when you look at that, you look at that in comparison to the Air Force, that the Chinese have. I mean, their varied fleet of bombers and fighters is already 4,000 aircraft. I mean,
Hmm.
they have 10,000 planes, but a lot of those are commercial planes, or
Yeah. Hmm.
smaller government planes. But when you look at like I said, the fleet of the United States, it's not just the fighter jets; it's the tankers, because
Hmm.
they
Refueling and all sorts of
refueling
things.
in
Yeah.
the air, and
Hmm.
all the other needs that the U.S. military has to move things around the world if they have to. So this is where it gets into this: who wants to challenge the United States? I mean,
Hmm.
there's no way. Uh, China wants. You have 12 aircraft carriers. You'll have
Hmm.
15 in 10 years,
Hmm.
fleets, and they carry about 78 of these planes. And the planes were built specifically for their wings to tilt up 90 degrees, so they can fit more inside an aircraft carrier on the deck.
Yeah.
So you put your 10 fleet, you put 10 fleets, 10 of the 12 you have right now, in the Pacific Ocean, because of an issue with Taiwan. They're outgunned, they're outmanned. I mean,
Hmm.
every aircraft carrier fleet of the United States has the principal aircraft the carrier, and then there's 20 to 25 support ships, including submarines.
Yeah.
So
It's
you're
yeah.
talking a massive difference,
Yeah,
massive.
it's quite a big difference. When Pelosi visited Taiwan to support them, Shane, if you remember, China surrounded the island with ships as sort of a demonstration, a muscle flex, if you will. And as you point out, if China would decide to attack Taiwan, the Pentagon's known for years that critical military targets are all up and down China's coast because they're great at building massive cities, but they're not too good at building super highways from and creating bases out in the middle of nowhere. That would be better for them if their bases were interior, but they have everything on the shore because of ships, and so uh, along the coast we could certainly take them out pretty. I think pretty quickly, and as you also point out, to deter U.S. and allied forces, they'd have to be pretty hefty to threaten. We could take out a significant portion of any attacking Chinese forces. It's
Well,
not
that's
like
right. Yeah.
Japan taking over Pearl Harbor back in the 40s.
No, and there's nowhere close. And the U.S. is always talking. The Defense Department says, "Well, the Chinese have a bigger navy than we do." Yeah, well, 2/3 of the ships that they have are, they're less than 100 feet long. I mean, they're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
showboats.
they're yeah they're
They
show
have
they're
they
show
have
ships.
yeah, they have one. they have one aircraft carrier and they're building two or three. Oh wow, isn't that
Yeah,
exciting?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
like if
yeah.
we
Mhm,
explain to people so they know
mhm.
the nature and power of their military, they might appreciate the fact that there's no need to limit it. Just maintain it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all it
Mhm.
is maintenance, and that shouldn't cost more than what they're funding it now. I mean,
Yeah.
this argument about
Mhm.
oh we can't sustain two wars in two different theaters in the world, it's just
Yeah.
it's already set up for that.
Yeah, we're already and it's not gonna be boots on the ground,
No,
warfare anymore. You're not gonna be going house to house to root out the Germans or whoever your enemy
yeah, that's
is.
right.
It's not gonna be Vietnam fighting in the jungles hand to hand, so it isn't gonna be, that kind of, war anymore, and we're already seeing that in Ukraine. Um,
That's
you know,
right.
uh, yeah, no, the as was pointed out on TV this morning, the Ukraine army is so good and the Russian army so bad. The difference there. So yeah, there's no guarantee. I guess the Chinese would be any
Yeah,
any
but
worse than the Russians.
you but just to keep this warmongering going, they have all these retired military lieutenant colonels on your media,
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
well, the Ukrainians will never get Russia, out of Crimea." Well, the
Mhm.
Russians are surrounded. I mean, they're over 25,000 losses,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of tanks,
Oh yeah.
almost like
Mm-hmm.
over 1,000 pieces of equipment they've lost.
Yeah.
And of course, the warmongers get on and say, well, they're drafting 350,000 people. This is like Saddam Hussein fighting Iran. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's really the
Mhm.
kind of war we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, I remember the reports. He was amazed we had smart bombs and things like that
Yeah,
when he's watching on CNN or whatever it was that was carrying it at the time. But
and again, the other number that's really important we've talked about before is
mhm,
that in the first world, the Allies,
mhm,
I'm talking global allies
mhm.
outside of China and Russia,
Yeah,
they hold right now over 100,000 drones, and,
yeah,
and I'm not talking like little
mm,
tiny drones that you can buy for 20 or 30 or $50. I'm talking about global
yeah,
drone
big,
fly. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, monster drones and whatever.
I mean
Well, and
they have
yeah,
an
that,
they have
yeah,
an
that's what we're
observation.
already using in many of these Eastern countries.
That's right.
They're carrying heavy payloads of warfare, bombs and missiles and whatever. So yeah, that's the war of the future. I think will all be it'll be a giant video game,
Yeah, that's right.
pretty much. Excuse me.
From containers,
Yeah,
shipping containers. Yeah, where the guy running the drone is sitting,
yeah.
4 or 5 thousand miles away.
Hmm.
It amazed me. They have a global drone. It's called, and it's about the size. Well, it's the same size
Hmm.
in length and width as the 747,
Yeah.
and it literally is airborne perpetually because
Hmm.
it actually has solar panels
Yeah.
on the plane, and of course it can fly at altitude, so it's always in the sun,
Hmm.
and batteries on board. That's why it's so big for the solar panels to charge, and the
Hmm.
plane, it flies off that. It's principally a surveillance plane,
Hmm.
but it can fly anywhere from 10 to, well, it can fly up to 50,000 feet. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Hmm.
such a
That was
monster bird. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the good thing. Well, the other thing we talked about, it's got all this computer stuff on it. As I mentioned before, fly by wire controls,
Hmm.
mission computer, new cockpit displays, digital backbone. It's got the survivability, warfare, and threat identification system. The one downside of this plane is it can be hacked. It could be hacked by the opposing forces. So there is an issue there that the computer system could be hacked by someone. So there's
Well,
always
that's
that
always,
danger.
yeah, that'll
That's
always
always
be
that danger. Yeah,
that's right. That'll always be the issue with
yeah, it will be.
artificial intelligence. But
Hmm.
excuse me, It's you look at the history of McDonnell Douglas, going back to the over 100 years ago through
Mhm.
World War II and all
Mhm.
the other wars in the 20th century. It's been up and down because it's principally a government, contracted deal, other than the commercial planes.
Yeah.
Which so the bread and butter has always been the military. The cream was the commercial planes,
Hmm.
and then in 1996, Boeing acquired Rockwell's North American operations because they were in trouble, because it's principally a military issue
Yep.
of contracts. And then in August of '97, Boeing bought McDonnell Douglas for $13 billion. So today that's like a
Mhm.
1.4, $1.5 trillion
Yeah, it's a
business.
big payday.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the U.S. has consolidated its weapons manufacturing,
Hmm.
and as everybody reports, President Eisenhower's last speech was, "Beware the industrial military complex." Well, it's
Hmm.
massive. I
Yeah.
mean, it employs, it basically replaced NASA for
Hmm.
employing the most engineers, most
Yeah.
designers, most MIT graduates of software
Yeah.
and
All the
and
tech guys.
tech guys, and
Hmm.
so it's interesting that you can see in the first world economies how they can transition, they can protect because of consolidation, and it works well, and it
Hmm.
generates upside for everybody involved, and that's
Hmm.
what capitalism is about.
Yeah, that's so true. So, all right. Hey, don't forget, we're
Yes.
here every Tuesday, every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Subscribe, ring the notification bell because you'll always be notified when we're on, no matter what time zone you're in. Like us, leave a comment. We would like to hear what you think of the show and what things you'd like to hear, or if there's topics you want to talk us to talk about. We would gratefully acknowledge knowing what those are because we're here for you, and we would greatly appreciate that. So why not shoot us a line in the comments below what you want us to talk about, and we'd be happy to research that topic and put it on the air. Why not? we we also need to remind you, hey, you know what? We're on radio. Believe it or not, we have faces for radio. In fact, we're on every Saturday, 8 to 11. You can hear us anywhere in the world, 8 to 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Listen live at kmmsam.com. All you got to do is click listen now. There's no sign up needed. There's nothing to join, nothing you have to, no personal information you have to give. And our past shows, including this one, will be at Tom and Shane podcast at kmmsam.com. Just click on Tom and Shane podcast, and you will be taken directly there. And hey, it's we have a fun radio show, so you'll be happy to check that out. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will see you. We'll talk to you on the radio on Saturday, and we will see you on our next podcast next Tuesday. Bye for now.